Sarah Vine, writing in the Daily Mail, admitted a different view of the Duchess, who had set up a stall next to the main wedding marquee promoting her range of teas. I'm slapped silent. Who uses their daughter's wedding as an opportunity to set up a stall for your teas? Lilybet, this is what you have to look forward to with Mama Markle, okay? Just set your expectations now. Hello, how are you? Welcome to my channel. My name is Cheer Denise. We're going to keep going in Entitled. Of course, that's the book about Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson. Now, before we begin, we're going to jump right in, but I do just want to tell you that in the very beginning of today's readings, it's quite vulgar. We're going to be talking about depositions in which Virginia Giuffre, formerly Virginia Roberts, is going to be discussing what she experienced at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein. And if you have little ears around, or that's not something that you want to hear, just letting you know that that is at the opening. Now, we're going to talk about other things too, but if you just need to fast forward that, or you have little ones around who you don't want to overhear that, just giving you a little bit of a warning. Okay, let's get started. Our first section is entitled Incriminating Depositions. At the end of December 2014, two lawyers, Bradley Edwards and Paul Cassell, filed court papers in Florida alleging that Andrew was one of several prominent figures, including a former prime minister, to have participated in sexual activities with a minor, later identified as Virginia Giuffre. Virginia had sworn an affidavit that she had had sex with Andrew in London, New York, and on Little St. James. Quote, "The third time I had sex with Andy was in an orgy on Epstein's private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands. I was around 18 at the time. Epstein, Andy, approximately 8 other young girls, and I had sex together. The other girls all seemed and appeared to be under the age of 18 and didn't really speak English. We were told to start kissing and touching and to use sex toys on each other. The girls obviously had been trained. Jeffrey and the prince were laughing, and then they undressed, and then I performed a sex act on them. Jeffrey first, and then Andrew. It was disgusting." The deposition from a 2015 defamation lawsuit filed by Virginia Giuffre also revealed that after Epstein had been arrested in 2008, Prince Andrew had lobbied on behalf to avoid prosecution and to obtain a lesser sentence, and that Epstein had cleared Sarah Ferguson's debts. Andrew cut short the family skiing holiday at his £22,000-a-week chalet in Verbier to hold talks with the monarch, senior aides, and his legal team. Initially, Buckingham Palace refused to respond to the allegations, but, after various press articles, put out a statement. Quote, "This relates to long-running and ongoing civil proceedings in the United States to which the Duke of York is not a party. As such, we would not comment in detail. However, for the avoidance of doubt, any suggestion of impropriety with underage minors is categorically untrue." Somebody taught them the word categorically, and they just can't not wait to use it. That's what they always say about Andrew, and it feels like that's the tip-off, the red flag that indeed sit down and start believing. This was followed by an even stronger denial. Quote, "It is emphatically denied that the Duke of York had any form of sexual contact or relationship with Virginia Roberts. Any claim to the contrary is false and without foundation." Court papers revealed that Nadia Markanova, when asked by a lawyer for Virginia Giuffre, "Have you ever been made to perform sexually on Prince Andrew?" replied, "Fifth," meaning she would like to plead the fifth, which, of course, in the United States means that that's your right to remain silent under questioning. Sarah Kellen, Epstein's executive assistant, whose legal fees were also said to have been paid by Epstein, was asked, "Would you agree with me that Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein used to share underage girls for sexual relations?" And she replied, "On the instruction of my lawyer, I must invoke my Fifth Amendment privilege." According to court filings, Miss Kellen was threatened by Epstein to prevent her cooperating. Adriana Ross, a former model who worked as Epstein's diary organizer, refused to answer the question, "Has Prince Andrew ever been involved with underage minor females to your knowledge?" On January 3, 2015, the Daily Mirror's headline was, quote, "Prince Andrew may have been secretly filmed with underage girl that he is alleged to have abused." The same day he emailed Ghislaine Maxwell, "Let me know when we can talk. Got some specific questions to ask you about Virginia Roberts." On January 6, the Daily Mail led with, 10 questions Buckingham Palace must answer over Prince Andrew's underage sex slave scandal. These were put to Andrew's office. There was no question. Requests from Virginia Giuffre's lawyers for a statement from Andrew about the allegations, under oath, were ignored. His ex-wife continued to insist that he was the best man in the world. You all need to get off his back already. He is just as white as white as white, lily white, snow white, pure as the driven snow. How could anybody ever not believe that Andrew's the best person you've ever met in your whole life? I mean, I know I divorced him because he was like the literal worst. He's the best person you could ever hope to know. That's why I'm not married to him anymore. Also in January, Private Eye reported that 3 officials had put their concerns in writing to the Queen, arguing that in any other profession, someone accused of such misdemeanors would be suspended from duty pending an investigation, and the royal should follow suit. Her 3 correspondents have received curt, typed acknowledgments signed by her secretary. The release of the flight logs of Epstein's jet, including the names of the passengers for each flight, backed up Giuffre's claims. It showed how Epstein flew to Nassau to meet Sarah Ferguson and her daughters as far back as 1998, and recorded flights of the Duke in February 1999 to Little St. James, and in May 2000 to Palm Beach. A March 2002 flight from Luton to JFK included Naomi Campbell and Bill Clinton. According to one U.S. article, based on 93 pages of leaked police files, FBI agents had seized more than 4 hours of footage captured by cameras hidden in guest rooms. The secret recordings in the various Epstein properties had one purpose, as Virginia Giuffre explained in her affidavit. Epstein required me to describe the sexual events that I had with these men, presumably so that he could potentially blackmail them. Epstein specifically told me that the reason for him doing this was so that they would owe him. They would be in his pocket, and he would, quote, have something on them. I understood him to mean that when someone was in his pocket, they owed him favors. I also understood that Epstein thought he could get leniency if he was ever caught doing something illegal, or more, so that he could escape trouble altogether. Giuffre's deposition also had allegations against international model scout Jean-Luc Brunel, who supplied many of the girls to Epstein and whom she claimed she was forced to watch engage in sexual acts with dozens of underage girls. Brunel had introduced Prince Andrew to Ilana, a Ukrainian model, in 2004 when she was 19. She felt Andrew, quote, looks at women as just being his mission to conquer. Once he succeeds, he always moves on to the next step. He lives a hedonistic, nihilistic lifestyle with a mission only to please himself. In 2020, Brunel would be arrested by French police and charged with the rape of minors. Among those the French investigators wished to interview was Prince Andrew. While waiting trial, Brunel was found hanging in his cell. It was Andrew's 62nd birthday. What a couple of facts to put together. It's almost like a birthday present. The palace tried to fight back in a PR campaign that involved favorite royal lawyers Hartbottle and Lewis, and brought out various girlfriends to come to Andrew's defense. Koo Stark broke a 32-year silence to give details of her relationship with Andrew, telling a newspaper, and you guys, this is rich, I've only known him to be honorable and honest, with Christian values. Slap that Christian on there and you never have to worry about anything. Because no Christian ever has ever done anything that was sinful or not right. I mean, God came to die for all the people who were doing the right thing, right? Christians can always be believed. Look, as a strong Christian, I really don't mean that in a horribly snarky way, although it came out that way. But what I mean is, don't slap on Christian and think that you fixed everything, because there's just too much evidence of Christians not using the Holy Spirit to do right. You know, there's lots of backsliding Christians. Maybe he was Christian once. I highly doubt it. I have never seen any pattern in Andrew's life where he's like, I really want to live out the gospel. But I mean, it almost makes it sound even hokier for her to be like, he's a real good Christian man. Well, you don't need to say that. Like, you can just say he's a good person. Like, you don't need to, like, up the ante with that kind of foolishness. Now it sounds like you're almost making things up, you know? If you told me, he's the best man you'll ever know. I mean, an absolute rocket scientist. Well, we know he's not that. You know? Like, don't just say crazy things. Anyway, respite came in April 2015 when U.S. District Judge Kenneth Mara ruled that the sex allegations made against Andrew in court papers filed in Florida must be struck from the public record. Giuffre had been silenced, but it was not to last. I think what's crazy is that why should they be struck from the public record? Do you have proof he didn't do it? Do you have evidence that he wasn't actually where all these flight logs say that he was? What's his alibi? Why do we just strike it down, I ask you? I mean, that is wild. Wild things. And that's what makes it hard to be just a little old nobody. Because little old nobody's not getting anything struck down from the public record, I'll tell you that much. But these big fat cats can just, you know, barge into a room, their belly swinging, their fat neck swaying, just rape a bunch of girls and then just be like, I'll get that struck from the public record. I mean, how are we, the little people, supposed to coexist with this inordinate amount of inequality? It's just so unfair. Continuing. In May 2016, the Daily Mail published an article that again raised questions about the dividing line between Andrew's role as special representative and his own private business interests, alleging that in April 2011, the Duke had acted as a fixer for a foreign consortium in Kazakhstan in return for £3.83 million in commission. Using his status and his relationship with Kenneth Rakashev, who had brokered the sale of Sutting Hill, Andrew had acted as a fixer in a £385 million investment in Kazakhstan on behalf of EYDAP, Greece's largest water firm, and a Swiss finance house, RS Capital, from Zurich. They had wanted to build water and sewage networks in two of Kazakhstan's largest cities and had enlisted Andrew's help. Through Rakashev, meetings had been arranged with the mayors of Astana and Almaty, along with representatives of local water authorities. The prince's spokesman, David Pogson, initially denied the Duke's involvement with the two companies. His Royal Highness works to promote economic growth and skilled jobs creation in the United Kingdom and has not acted on behalf of any international company. After the newspaper showed Pogson a copy of an email dated April 14, 2011, which Andrew had personally sent to Rakashev on behalf of both EYDAP and Eris, Buckingham Palace first claimed it was a forgery, and then tried through Harbottle and Lewis to halt publications of the article on privacy grounds. The palace finally issued a statement. Claims that the Duke of York acted as a so-called fixer for an international consortium and stood to benefit from a potential contract in Kazakhstan are untrue, defamatory, and a breach of the editor's code of conduct. It's never wrong for Andrew to do anything he wants to do, but you're wrong for noticing. You're the one who shouldn't be asking any questions. Don't ask any questions. Don't raise any concerns. Oh, you have evidence and receipts, have you? Well, you just shouldn't have noticed then. You should never suspect him of ever doing anything wrong because, as his ex-wife is fond of telling you, he's pure as the driven snow. There clearly was a public interest in the story, and concerns were raised why the former special representative should be helping foreign firms when public money had been spent. £10 million alone for his police protection officers, so that the prince could promote British companies. The email that Andrew had sent Rakashev had begun, "We would like to discuss the potential of supporting the water company." The "we" suggested he was part of the business plan. It was sent not from an official UK government email account, but a private one, hosted by Unitech, a small computing firm in Buckinghamshire that had a royal warrant. He continued to push the deal along. In the end, the agreement fell through in late 2011 after Kazakh police opened fire on a group of striking oil workers in the city of Zahana Ozan, killing 14. And EYDAP pulled out. But, as a result of the introductions, Rakashev and Andrea Bubb of RS Capital began to discuss mining opportunities involving a gold mine, a zinc firm, and EYDAP's Mr. Bardis and Rakashev set up a deal for investment in a Greek tobacco company. A source at RS Capital stated, "Our feeling was that if it went ahead, a fair commission for the prince would be 1%, or about €5 million. 1% is €5 million? But we were also lucky. The Mail wondered that if the prince could earn $4 million for sending a few emails, doesn't it seem entirely possible he has been doing the same thing with other firms and in other countries? That 1 percentage point seems to be the going rate. It was what his ex-wife had suggested for access to Andrew when caught in her sting by the fake sheik. Kazakhstan was a magnet at the time, not just for commercial activity, but, as a recent independent Russian territory, a base for intelligence operations. One Kazakh businessman encountered Andrew several times, both on private visits and on official visits as special representative, while working in Kazakhstan, and was not impressed. He found the Duke arrogant and stupid, feeling Andrew was simply there to have a good time and achieved little to promote trade. He can't hold a conversation because he has no depth, and he won't listen. He was much more interested in making suggestive comments to attractive women than talking business. Everyone knew he was a joke. The businessman noted the close relationship with the president and his son-in-law, Timur, who would often invite Andrew to private houses or the VIP section of nightclubs where girls would be provided for him. On one occasion, Andrew disappeared into a back room with 2 members of the Russian-Ukrainian girl group, New Virgos, otherwise known as Viagra. On another, girls were refused entry to Andrew's hotel and had to be infiltrated up the fire escape. The businessman has no doubt that Andrew would have been photographed on these escapades, with the material kept as blackmail. Veronika Abitova, a model and medical student in Kazakhstan, interviewed by journalist Ian Halperin, admitted to having been part of a ring of women Nazarbayev supplied to various dignitaries. She knew women who were provided for the Duke of York. Prince Andrew loved Astana because he could do whatever he wanted without media scrutiny. He also did a lot of business deals with Nazarbayev, mainly in the oil and gas industry. He made a fortune. And the best part was that he didn't have to invest a penny. Nazarbayev loved the prestige of including the prince in major business deals because it looked very good for him. It was a win-win for both parties. According to Richard Orange, the Daily Telegraph's correspondent in Kazakhstan, in 2010, Andrew had set up a Kazakhstan student, then in her late 20s, in a smart apartment in Mayfair. Her TEFL teacher confirmed the Duke visited once a month and kept other girls in similar situations, adding, the student in question absolutely refused to talk to any journalists. She later married a wealthy Italian client. New disclosures now came to light surrounding the 2007 sale of Sunninghill Park, allowed to sit empty by its new owners, decaying for 8 years until it was razed to the ground in 2015. At one point, Bracknell Forest Borough Council had considered seizing it under the 2004 Housing Act to use as a shelter for the homeless. Emails obtained under Freedom of Information legislation showed that, contrary to claims of any arm's-length arrangement, Andrew was far more involved in the sale than previously admitted. His aide, Amanda Thirsk, had discussed interior design and security arrangements with purchaser Timur Kulibayev, and she had tried to arrange for him to lease 2 fields next to the house from the Crown Estate for a peppercorn rent of £200 per acre. Leaked emails also revealed that she had arranged for the oligarch's representatives to meet Crown Estate officials to discuss buying multi-million-pound properties near Kensington Palace, shortly before the sale of Sunninghill was finalized. Buckingham Palace repeated its statement that the sale of Sunninghill Park was a straight commercial transaction between the trust which owned the house and the trust which bought it. There were no side deals and absolutely no arrangement from the Duke of York to benefit otherwise or to commit to any other commercial arrangement. A source close to Andrew told Halperin that after questions were asked, the Queen called the right people and was able to put out the fire. Okay. How unfortunate for all of us to have to see all this. Now, what's going on with the old ex-wife, the House of Ferguson? Would that it fall, but it continues to rise like a phoenix from the ashes. I must say, she has the viability of a cockroach. I mean, she cannot be killed. She just keeps on and keeps on and keeps on. It doesn't matter what she does. It doesn't matter how she messes up. She just keeps chugging. The Duchess continued to set up new companies, more recently under the name Margaret, her middle name. One partnership, to be called the Duchess Collection, was established with an expensive tonic water brand, Double Dutch. Its cans sold for 10 times the price of own brand tonics, to tap the Duchess's 11,300 followers on Instagram and 96,000 followers on Twitter. In September 2015, she had embarked on a 2-day cruise entitled Fergie's Flying Culinary Circus from Oslo to Kiel, having linked up with the company Colorline for an afternoon tea range of teas, jams, biscuits, cakes, plates, and candles, styled as the nearest thing to royal products. Of course, immediately all our minds go to Meghan Markle. Immediately. Teas, jams, biscuits. I mean, boy, Meghan, it's like every time I think she can't disappoint me more, I find that I'm even more disappointed because her teas, her jams, or dry biscuits weren't her own idea. She even took that idea from Fergie. Is there anything that she's done of her own accord, or did she just study the Fergie Playbook? Way back in 2015, Fergie's over there trying to hawk her afternoon tea with her teas, jams, and dry biscuits. And I just find it, you know what it really is? Somebody told these 2 women that in America, one of the things that Americans will buy is tea from somebody who says that that's what the royals do. This feels like a very specific marketing ploy because nobody was trying to hawk their teas, their jams, and their dry biscuits in England. But in America, these 2 duchesses have been convinced by some marketer that what the American people will really eat up is the experience of afternoon tea because we don't have afternoon tea. So somebody has told these 2 women, You give these poor, tired housewives with their bleary eyes and their sweats and Birkenstocks, as Meghan recently referred to everybody as wearing, I just wear sweats and Birkenstocks, just like you guys. I mean, I'm just a slob most of the time, just like you guys, barefoot. Give these poor, sad sacks who can't find a way out of their sweats the idea of what it is to be in a royal setting with your teas and your jams and your dry biscuits. Give these poor, sad peasants a little hint of what it is to be an elegant lady. They'll just eat that up. Unfortunately, we don't eat it up, and there's nothing that any of us wants less than a pot of watery jam, a heap of dry biscuits, in Meghan's case, a bunch of flour sprinkles. No, thank you. I don't want your flavorless teas. Gross. The elitism that is required to believe that any American would rise up out of the dust and filth of their trailer park to stumble forward and try to purchase some of these royal items is just unbelievable. Talk about out of touch with reality. Nobody wants this. What lives do you think we're all living out here where we would just get so excited? I mean, when I think about who these people are, this is like the impression of like somebody driving into a town and throwing a bunch of nickels and dimes, a couple of pennies out into the dirt and watching all the children run for it. Like that's like the mindset of these people. They just think they're like, we're so excited with any sorry, sad little idea they throw our way with the like word royal stamped onto it. And anyway, Fergie's going to go one step further. It's not just the teas, the jams, and the dry biscuits. The U.S. publisher Abrams had announced publication of a 128-page book, Tea and Gratitude, which over 12 chapters would teach readers how to set the perfect table, throw a tea party, brew and serve the perfect cup of tea. The publishers were promising her trademark whimsy, with a flavor of the Mad Hatter's Tea Party from Lewis Carroll's novel Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. In return for a six-figure fee, Sarah was also promoting her hair straighteners on QVC, boasting that they came in royal purple. She was now handled by talent agency Kruger Crown and had signed up to a corporate speakers agency in Canada, where her services were being offered at $20,000 a time to talk about her personal journey to fulfillment. Princess Beatrice was also in talks with the U.S. speaking agencies. Truly, what does Princess Beatrice have to tell us, I ask you? It was all beginning to pay dividends. In July 2015, Sarah had moved some of her furniture, including a steel drum, to the chalet in Verbier as part of a move to Switzerland for tax reasons, though she kept a London room and a room at the Royal Lodge. The leak of 1.5 million files from a Panama-based law firm, Mossack Fonseca, in April 2016 demonstrated her own financial wealth had become so convoluted that at one point she herself did not know she managed her assets. Her solicitors, Clintons, had to contact the Panama firm to discover who the director of the company are and who the beneficial owners of the company are. It turned out that Esser Company Incorporated, itself managed through a trust services company in Geneva, which had been set up in British Virgin Islands in May 2000, owned the trademarks of the Little Red children's books. Her spokesman insisted she always disclosed all sources of income in her tax returns. In November 2016, it was revealed that Sarah had launched a £25 million, later increased to £40 million, lawsuit against the publishers of the News of the World after Mazhar Mahmood had been charged with perverting the course of justice in a collapsed drugs trial. She claimed she'd been tricked and had lost £510,000 each year from lost speaking engagements and media articles. Her spokesman insisted the legal action was not opportunistic. Lawyers for the newspaper defended the claim, accusing her of dishonesty and describing her case as defective and embarrassing. The writ showed that in the year before the Cash for Access scandal, she had made £750,000 from speaking engagements, even though she was supposedly on the brink of bankruptcy. In the year after the article appeared, her earnings had dropped to £54,000. She also claimed that investors in two television animation projects, Fergie's Farm and Tea for Ruby, which would have earned her $22 million, had been scared off. Among the other ventures which had failed as a result of her lost reputation were a lifestyle brand called House of Ferguson and a series of higher-end books entitled Madame Pantaloon. Higher-end books called Madame Pantaloon? Exactly what's the lower end of the scale? Her legal submission argued the Duchess was working to assist Graham King on raising funds for new projects of £90 million, The commission that would have been payable on funds raised was £4,373,250. A source close to King, who had produced Martin Scorsese's The Departed and Hugo, described the claim as exaggerated. Her other alleged losses included £8,645,000 that she would have earned as a celebrity endorser of vitamins, dietary supplements, and personal care products for U.S. company Windmill Health Products, and £4.8 million for personal appearances. In the immediate aftermath of the sting, Sarah had explained her actions by saying she was drunk, was trying to help a friend in debt. Now, in an article from 2011, which Harper's Bazaar had republished, she claimed it had been a misunderstanding. I didn't do that, selling access. The story now was that the Indian mogul had wanted to start a business, and she had said, if you're going to invest in my business, with that comes my family because we're all a team together. In July 2017, there was fresh media censure after David and Victoria Beckham shared a princess-themed 6th birthday party held for their daughter Harper with their 38.5 million followers on Instagram, revealing that it had been at Buckingham Palace. One of the pictures showed Harper with Princess Eugenie. The Yorks, both of whom attended, claimed it was a private event for a family friend, but critics pointed out that the palace, currently being refurbished with £370 million of public money, was not a playground for the privileged few, but a building paid for by the British taxpayer, and access to it should not depend on wealth or connections. A private event should not, then, have been advertised to millions. Dickie Arbiter, the Queen's former assistant press secretary, was angered. What is Eugenie having a party there for? What is Sarah York doing having organized it, allegedly? None of them has got a right to be there. Is it being opened up as a theme park? It devalues what the place is all about. The Beckhams were not the only celebrities to have been given access. In November, it was revealed the actor Kevin Spacey, facing allegations of sexual assault, had been photographed sitting on the 1953 coronation throne, in breach of protocol, while on a private tour of Buckingham Palace given by Prince Andrew. In spite of these gaffes, Sarah had worked her way back into royal approval, a mark of how she was able to play her husband. The rehabilitation had been encouraged by Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall, who had known Sarah Barentes, and whose brother, Mark Shand, had worked with Sarah at his wildlife charity, the Elephant Family. The Duchess featured in the court circular after she attended an event in January 2016 as Prince Andrew's official representative. She'd been invited to Balmoral, had accompanied Andrew to the royal enclosure during Ascot in 2015, and even been given permission to host an event for children in crisis at Windsor Castle. According to one well-placed source, she pulls his strings. Andrew pulls the Queen's strings. That's why she's at Balmoral. For someone who can be so bonkers in her personal life, she's extraordinarily shrewd when it comes to managing a relationship with the Queen. They continued. Her influence on the Duke of York is not necessarily in the royals' best interests. I wonder why the Queen seems unable to see this. Now, his role as special representative having come to an end, Andrew had set up a new organization, Pitch at Palace, and that's and like the and symbol in an email address. So Pitch at Palace, to provide a forum for entrepreneurs to be brought together with investors, a cross between the Dragon's Den host Evan Davis and Claudia Winkleman from Strictly Come Dancing. It was funded by sponsors such as the accountancy giant KPMG, Cisco, Barclays, AstraZeneca, and Standard Chartered Bank, and launched at Buckingham Palace with later functions at St. James Palace. It soon went international, with versions in Africa, China, Australia, and the United Arab Emirates, Latin America, and Singapore, and successes included an HIV self-test kit, helpful for Andrew's lifestyle. Stasher, a platform to let travelers find a place to store their bags without checking into a hotel. Buy Miles, an arrangement to charge car insurance by the number of miles driven. Safe to Net, software on a child's phone to stop from sexting. And Magic Pony Technology, an AI startup that Twitter bought for $150 million. Rhodey Cameron was one of those chosen to pitch. It certainly gave me a chance, not least to get high-quality mentoring, and people began to take me seriously. That it took place at St. James gave it extra sizzle. Cameron used it as an opportunity to network to meet service providers such as lawyers and accountants. It was a real enabler, and it took the barriers down. It was like a micro-MBA. Quintus Liu set up a digital medical platform to connect pharmacy websites, with the result that medicines could be delivered to patients within the hour. It inspired me more than anything else, opened my eyes to opportunities out there, and allowed me to meet investors, he said. Michael Rolfe, co-founder of Yo-Yo Wallet, won Pitch in 2014 and as a result secured an introduction to Cafe Nero's founder Jerry Ford. This led to the Yo-Yo Wallet handling the coffee chain's payments and loyalty scheme. He described Pitch as a wholly positive experience, with every event well attended by the who's who of industry. Rolfe had multiple interactions with Prince Andrew. He would remember from one conversation to the next one about the firm. He was a good force for good. The venture capitalist Bill Leah invested through Pitch. While he thought Andrew wanted to be smarter than he really was, he found the Duke's aide, Amanda Thirsk, went the extra mile, was caring and very capable. The problem he felt was that Andrew didn't always take her advice. The Duke also became involved with the Royal Academy of Engineering Africa Prize for Engineering Innovation, which saw such shortlisted pitches as non-invasive diagnostic kit to detect malaria, Science Set, a mini science lab containing all the materials needed to carry out experiments in the school syllabus, BioSure, an HIV self-test, Cold Hubs, a solar-powered walk-in cold room that extended the shelf life of perishable food tenfold, and Goodbox, contactless terminals making it easier to donate to charity, which was taken up by the Natural History Museum, Great Ormond Street Hospital, and Save the Children. He also launched a scheme, the Inspiring Digital Enterprise Award, IDEA, to encourage children to learn digital skills and set up online businesses in partnership with the Nominant Trust, modeled on the Duke of Edinburgh Awards, with prizes of up to £20,000 for the best ideas for new digital companies. The Duke gave an interview to John Arledge in the Sunday Times to promote his initiatives, describing himself as an ideas factory, adding Prince Albert was the entrepreneur in residence at Buckingham Palace. He was doing it in the Industrial Revolution, and I am doing it in the Digital Revolution. It turned into a public relations disaster, however, after he refused to pose for pictures in the palace's Chinese dining room, despite some meticulous negotiation over 2 days between His Royal Highness, his staff, and the magazine. As Arledge put it, I'm left thinking that if I can fly 10,500 miles to Sydney to see him in action with Piget Palace, the least he can do is walk a few feet into the hall of his own home for a picture. Arledge later recollected, he was, without question, the most arrogant and thoughtless public figure I've ever interviewed. Everything he should have done, he didn't do. And everything he shouldn't have done, he did do. Arledge had originally intended to escalate his questions in terms of difficulty, but realized that even the easiest ones were difficult for Andrew. The journalist abandoned a plan to pose a series of increasingly simple questions in the hope that he would just keep talking absolute crap and revealing himself to be incompetent, useless, ill-prepared, and thoughtless. Arledge warned the Buckingham Palace press office the article might be critical. "We work with what we have," they replied. Don't they ever? They really do work with what they have. Just one more. The human Labrador. Along with Ivanka Trump, Sarah had become the European-American spokesperson for dietitian Gianluca Mack, whose ketogenic approach to weight loss allowed practitioners to eat pasta and pizza, and whose $1,000 meal kits promised a loss of 20 pounds in 45 days. The very clever timing of the announcement with the marriage of Princess Eugenie to her long-term boyfriend Jack Brooksbank was, according to the managing director of the agency promoting Mack, an easy way for the brand to get a huge amount of free coverage from the partnership. On October 12, 2018, Princess Eugenie, dressed in a low-back dress to show off the scar from her scoliosis operation, married at the St. George's Chapel in Windsor. It was the first time Ferguson had appeared at a public family gathering for 27 years. Prince Philip, who had not been in the same room as his daughter-in-law for 20 years, sat beside her in the formal pictures. The security costs to the taxpayer for the wedding, attended by 850 guests, were estimated to be £2 million. Sarah Vine, writing in the Daily Mail, admitted a different view of the Duchess, who had set up a stall next to the main wedding marquee promoting her range of teas. I'm slapped silent. Who uses their daughter's wedding as an opportunity to set up a stall for your teas? Lilybet, this is what you have to look forward to with Mama Markle, okay? Just set your expectations now. The woman is utterly incorrigible, and yet there is something about her indefatigable, indestructible nature that I can't help but admire. Something in her propensity for pratfalls of her own making that makes her so much more human than other royals. Vine likened her to a human Labrador, clumsy, overexcitable, greedy, prone to causing breakages with her constantly wagging tail, but ultimately impossible to remain angry with for all that long. Another journalist, Frances Hardy, spent 2 days with the Duchess for a wide-ranging interview, which covered the relationship with Andrew. We're the happiest divorced couple in the world. We're divorced to each other, not from each other. How's that for a complete and total mind F? Did I make any sense with that statement? I did not. But I used words in a way that were so confusing that you might think I'm clever. The interview also covered her relationship with her parents, children, members of the royal family, and her charity work. Hardy felt the Duchess's compassion, empathy, and her love for children to be genuine. His ability to empathize with the young and disadvantaged came, Hardy argued, from Sarah's own unhappy childhood and reluctance to become an adult, as the Duchess freely admitted. But the key to me is that I look at life with a child's sense of excitement and joy. Asked about becoming a grandmother, she exclaimed, "I'll tell you, they'll be older than me at age 3. I'll have more fun making the Barbie kid houses than the grandchildren will." I mean, in a lot of ways, maybe she's not as delusional as we all think she is. I mean, she's like, the 3-year-olds will be more mature than me. No kidding. Never was a truer word spoken. All right, well, that's where we're going to end today. I just want to say real quick, I've seen a couple of comments about people who are rather discouraged by what they feel is my negative tone towards the monarchy. And I want to reiterate, I have no desire in my heart to be a person who just tears down the establishment. I don't care about tearing down the establishment, but I do care about the fact that this book, which is laid out in great detail and with zero commentary from the author, who lays out facts and never allows himself to slip into editorialization. That's my part. The book just tells us what's true. The book has just laid out for us fact on fact on fact. What I love about Andrew Lowney is that he does not indulge himself. He doesn't have a field day with the facts. Some pages are literally him just laying out facts and saying no more about it. He does not interject his personality into it. Jerry Oppenheimer is a biographer that is also incredibly detailed and is laying out many a scandal-ridden page, but his personality is injected on every page. He can lay in some scathing lines about what we're reading, and while that is amusing, it also tends to lend itself to more self-doubt, because anywhere you see the personality of an author, you're then given permission to doubt the tone of the work, because I'm seeing you. I'm now no longer seeing the facts. This author does not do that. And there's been many times when I'm like, I would love to feel more about what he thinks about this, but he doesn't indulge himself in that. But I don't know how I'm supposed to read these facts and not just let my jaw hit the floor. I don't know how I'm supposed to read this to you and not be absolutely choked by the disgusting facts of hidden corruption. So for the people who are like, well, I don't think you're being positive. Well, this book's hard to be positive about. It's hard to feel positive about what feels like continued cover up. And I don't know how to argue with these facts. This isn't, I think I was recently accused of just siding with whatever I read instead of, doing my due diligence to see if it's true. And I'm like, but these are all facts. I mean, this is my due diligence. I'm reading lists of facts. So the bibliography of this book is extensive. The research he did for 4 slap years. And let me tell you, the palace did not want this book to be published. Did not. Fought him. He's been fighting for years on this. And so, I mean, it's not a positive look. But do we need to be ostriches with our heads in the sand? Or can we just be grown-ups and be like, well, that stinks. I was under a different interpretation of what was going on over there. And in the integrity of the institution, I don't think that we need to just go with fire and pitchfork to every institution, as I think is our current want, because we've been let down so many times. I think we really have to sort the facts and really consider with every single institution, is this still working for the people or is it not working for the people? Is this institution looking to further human flourishing or is it not? Is it looking to cover up scandal and crime? If it is, then we need to hold these people accountable. That's all I'm saying. But for the people who feel like I'm just being overly negative, I'm sorry. It's not a super positive book. So it's just difficult for me to, end on a high note every time. But anyway, we'll pick up this book on Monday and I will see you guys tomorrow for our Friday News Roundup. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.